Hi, I'm Beth with Pretty Loaded, and I am here with Frank Sharp, and he is the founder and owner of Fortress Defense. And Frank, I'm just curious, how did you get into training guns? Because you don't have
Complete accident.
really.
Yeah. I wasn't. I had a shotgun when I was a kid that was given to me as a present to go hunting with my grandfather, and I learned early on that I wasn't a get up at 4 a.m. and wander through the woods type of person. And it kind of sat and gathered dust over the years. And in my late teen years, my mother actually had to move to East St. Louis for job training for about 6 months.
Okay.
And when she moved back home, we were unloading the car and there was a gun case in the car. And that was news to me at 18 years old. I had no idea she
Wow.
had a pistol.
Okay.
And being the idealistic 18-year-old at the time, what do you need that for? You know?
Right.
And she said, I noticed you didn't move down there with me to protect me. You know, and
Yeah.
that kind of hit home. And
Yeah.
I had a number of female friends that own guns, and over the next few years started just talking about it to people, and I realized early on that it was actually a women's rights issue,
Okay.
if not a minority rights also. But
Right.
it just became a general civil rights issue to me. And it wasn't many years after that I was already working in a gun shop. I
Okay.
mean, it was a pretty fast progression that I realized this is important, this is something that makes sense, and I ran with it.
Right.
And then becoming pretty much a serious shooter throughout my 20s and early 30s, I still hadn't had, I guess, what would be considered a formal training class yet. I
Okay.
did a lot of shooting, I was around a lot of people who were really good at it, and we did a lot of things together, but I hadn't gone to a real school yet.
Okay.
And a friend of mine suggested that I find somebody like Masad Ayub or Gunsight or anybody like that to train with. So the internet was in its early days,
Mhm.
and I did a little searching. And it just happened to be that John and Vicki Farnham were in Michigan a few weeks from when I was doing this search.
Okay.
So I sent an email and got a response right back, sure, come join us. So sent them a check, and I went and took my first class. And luckily it was with them.
Right.
And I had the same response that most people have when they take their first class, which is, I can't believe I've been carrying a gun all these years and I didn't know this stuff.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
we all had that same response with that.
Exactly.
And it was life changing. And I, over the course of that year, started writing checks to anybody I could to go train. I was training almost every weekend for
Okay.
a year.
Wow.
I was an instant training junkie, and I went and started taking from everybody I could. And I also finished all of John and Vicky's classes within a year, and I think it was a year and 3 months I was an instructor with them.
Wow.
Is what that took to
Okay.
happen. And I trained with a lot of people, but I decided to work for them. That was home, and that was the method that felt right to me for what people need for daily concealed carry.
Okay.
And I spent about 10 years with them as an apprentice, and at that point John kind of pushed me and said, you need to start your own company. And so I'm on my 5th year of doing that.
Okay.
So, but I can't say enough good things about John and Vicky. They still take me under their wing anytime I need help, and just phenomenal instructors.
Right.
And there's a lot of great instructors out there. We just lost Louis Auerbach a couple years ago, and I had the real honor of training with him about 5 times.
Okay.
Masad Ayub is incredible. Tom Gibbons, Clint Smith, all the old original guard of the instruction business. If anybody's watching this and they care, train with them now while you can.
Right.
And then there's the next generation of instructors out there, Rob Pincus and James Yeager and everybody like that. All fine instructors, and I recommend everybody go train with everyone they can.
Right.
Get as much as you can from everybody.
Okay.
So long story short.
I think with your training, it was just amazing because you really hit home safety was such a big thing, but you also brought into it how realistic situations can be, and how quickly you're going to need to draw your gun. And before I had your training, I was carrying my gun in my purse.
Which
And
might as well not have been with you.
right, and for some people, especially women, you need those baby steps sometimes,
Mhm.
and it took me a lot of years, and I felt comfortable with it, but at the same time, it takes a long time to get that gun out of your purse, and what if you forget your purse in a restaurant, or other things. And I just remember after taking your training that I needed to have it on me.
One of the things that we emphasize in all of our classes, not being a person who cares much about odds. I really don't do
Yeah.
this. There's not any such thing as 23% robbed or
Right.
74% raped or 82% murdered. None of that matters. I'm about consequences. So I carry guns because the consequence of not having it is unacceptable. I won't go with that. But that being said, I will probably not get in a gunfight today, but I will probably handle my gun multiple times. And the same for everyone else who's carrying. So we really emphasize gun handling and how are we going to live with our guns on a daily basis? How are we going to go out of the house carrying these guns, using public washrooms, with our kids in tow? How are we going to get around with our guns?
Right.
And that's a huge thing that most people don't consider.
That's true.
And we spend, as you know, we spend most of the half of the first day, just working on gun handling and how are we going to do all this.
Right.
And as much as I emphasize safety, we run a hot range. People's guns don't go in the holsters without a round in the chamber. We treat people like adults. We do that on the range, but it's done in a way that I think prepares you to live with this gun every day.
Right, and I think you do just the right amount of stress, because you have to stress people in order for them to really learn and to hold on to it. So I think it's the perfect amount of stress.
Oh, thank you. We try. And again, I've stolen everything I do. We've had no original thoughts at all. One thing that we did learn from John and Vicki early on is they pride themselves in being able to steal all the great things from all the great instructors, and so do we.
Right, exactly.
If it makes sense, we're going to use it.
Right.
So, and I try to give credit where credit's due whenever we're doing something. But there are ways to do this that have always worked, and they still work.
Exactly.
So we're not trying to get our name attached to anything. I'm just going to present whatever methods I can to our students that work for them.
That's smart.